DC's Justice League was released to theaters in 2017 and got, let's say, mixed results. At this point, it's pretty well known what ultimately caused the movie's downfall. The primary issue being the departure of director Zack Snyder and the subsequent hiring of Joss Whedon to finish the project. Suffice to say, the two directors did not have the same ideas as to what the Justice League movie should look like, and it led to the movie being wildly inconsistent in tone, character, and story. And then along comes 2021 and the release of the Snyder Cut, Zack's fully realized, unapologetically long version for the Justice League, and let me tell you, this is not the same movie. One of the first things you'll notice when you start this movie is the 4x3 format, and I don't really understand why Snyder wanted this movie to be formatted like it's supposed to be watched on Instagram, but if that's what he needs to uphold the integrity of his directorial vision, then so be it. It's a little unconventional, but you quickly forget about it and it doesn't really ruin the movie watching experience in any way. It just felt like a notable thing to me that needed mentioning. The number one thing this movie really has going for it is consistency. One directorial vision gives this movie consistent tone and characters. No more poorly green screened reshoots and CGI faces. This movie knows exactly what story it wants to tell and knows exactly how to do it. The differences start in the very first scene. In the 2018 version, the movie opens with Batman dangling a man off a roof so he can attract one of the many parademons he's apparently already been hunting. And then he has a talk with Alfred about how an invasion is beginning and it's time to build a team. In the 2021 version, the movie opens with the death of Superman from BVS. Only this time, we see that his death is the catalyst that triggered the mother boxes to call out to Steppenwolf. We then find Batman is building a team, not because the invasion is already happening, but because he's carrying guilt about how he acted in BVS, and he wants to make it right by calling on the aid of the other metahumans to be ready in case something bad does happen. Nobody has any prophetic knowledge of an invasion until Steppenwolf arrives on Themyscira to take the first box. These kinds of logical fixes and plot corrections persist throughout the whole movie and really improve the overall experience. This is the version of Justice League I wouldn't mind watching again, if I had a whole 4 hours to spare. The characters themselves are improved drastically too. Cyborg gets a fully fleshed out backstory through the use of flashbacks and a character arc of self-acceptance that comes to a head in the movie's climax. Plus, we actually get a good in-depth explanation about what he can really do. The Flash, while still being the main comedic character, is no longer just a bumbling buffoon. He actually gets to participate in the climax this time, and in arguably the most pivotal moment, and definitely the most visually stunning moment. Aquaman gets some time to connect with the team members instead of just being a dick to everyone until he sits on Wonder Woman's lasso. In fact, that scene fortunately doesn't happen at all. Wonder Woman herself is probably the least changed in terms of actual character, but some of her action scenes, while hitting the same beats, are altered to change how she fights and how her power is utilized. And Batman is probably the most altered character between the two movies, in my opinion. No more jokes about Aquaman talking to fish and no more eye-rolling quips in the middle of battle. This version of Batman is much more in line with the one that we saw in BVS. He's generally the same serious, brainy type, only he's learned from his mistakes since that last movie. And now he's deciding to put his faith in others instead of immediately counting them as a threat. He's trying to do the right thing now to atone for his previous mistakes, and he's learning to count on others as teammates. Superman didn't feel very different to me, bar the CGI mouth, but I think I would just chalk that up to him not being in all that much of the movie. Steppenwolf as a villain was largely the same. He did look considerably better here than he did in 2018, and I felt like his motivations made more sense this time around, but maybe that was just because I understood a little more about the movie this time. If I'm being honest, I haven't watched the first Justice League since it was in theaters because I just really didn't want to. So I don't necessarily remember exactly how every plot beat went in regards to his plan, but What I do know is that I felt a lot better watching this version than I did back then. Now, I've spent most of this time comparing the two versions of Justice League, as I think it's not only fair to do, but it's pretty difficult not to. But there is still the question that lingers, is this a good movie by its own merit? And I'm inclined to say yes. It's not a flawless cinematic masterpiece, but it's good. The plot, the main characters, the action, it's all presented in a very cohesive and well thought out manner. One thing that's unavoidable, though, is that it's definitely a Zack Snyder movie. That means lots of slow-mo and lots of drawn-out, overly dramatic sequences, including one with the Flash that felt a little bit weird, but if you like Snyder's style, then this probably isn't something that'll bother you too much. Though, as I said before, this movie is 4 hours long, and you really feel it sometimes. Certain scenes just go on for a really long time for no real reason, like when Aquaman leaves this little fishing village and the people just sing an entire song about him, and it just goes on and on for a while, and it doesn't move the plot or anything. It's just for the Zack Snyder kind of mood he's going for. So scenes like that and the slow-mo scenes feel like they're about 30% of the movie. And I feel like if you cut certain scenes and reduce the amount of Snyder slow-mo cam by about half, you could have easily had a version of this movie that was at least an hour shorter, without sacrificing any of the character or the plot significance. But if you can get on board with Snyder being a little self-indulgent in his own passion project here, then I think you'll have a fine time with this movie. It's one that I certainly wouldn't mind sitting down for again. The end of the movie has an epilogue that gives us a glimpse into the future and shows a very Injustice-looking future, where Batman is leading a small militia on some kind of plan to stop an evil Superman. And if this ending paints any kind of accurate picture of the future Zack Snyder DC projects that may or may not exist, then I think I'm going to have a new interest in the DCEU. And I feel like it would be a pretty impressive feat to pull fans back and get us invested again after so many cinematic disappointments. So, would I recommend Justice League the Snyder Cut? It sort of depends. If you haven't really liked any of DC movies lately, this isn't going to change your mind. It's not going to sway you. But if you were just disappointed in how Justice League turned out and you wanted the Zack Snyder vision, then this is unapologetically Snyder's vision. This is 4 hours of Snyder's storytelling on full display. So, if you care about the Justice League, then this will be the movie for you. But if you haven't been invested in DC's previous movies, then you're not going to care about this one any more than the rest of them. So, all in all, I would say probably, yeah, if you're interested in and you're watching my video right now, then you probably will be interested in Justice League.
Tell me, do you bleed?
What we do here is go back.